Novice to expert, stories and strategies for real estate success. Hey, I'm Laura Ortega, and I'm so excited you are joining me for Novice to Expert, the podcast that takes you behind the curtain of both novice and expert realtors. Are you considering becoming a realtor or looking to level up your real estate business? Then this podcast is for you. In each episode, I'll be interviewing experts in real estate, sharing my own growth journey and what's working, and we'll learn together how to establish habits that produce prosperity and bless others. Whether you're a seasoned realtor or a complete novice, don't miss out on any episode. Hit that subscribe button now to stay updated with the latest interviews, tips, and strategies from industry experts. Let's go. This is episode 2, Overcoming Fear as a New Real Estate Agent. Fear, a 4-letter word that can stop us in our tracks and push the pause button on our momentum. Hands up, who here would say they are fearful of the unknown? For the majority of new agents, this is a common fear. And to be honest, that was me for a long time. I planned my life to the T, and if I didn't know what would happen, I would ask. I remember sitting in the dentist chair as a 5th grader, mouth propped open and asking so many questions. What's that tool? What are you going to do now? I remember the dental hygienist finally saying, Laura, it's time to stop talking and let the dentist work. And she shoved that water pick into my mouth, so I would stop talking. Truly, choosing to live for 10 years outside the U.S., out of my comfort bubble in Wheaton, Illinois, really forced me out of my comfort zone. Literally, all we had overseas was the unknown. I call this flex power. Will we run out of the 5-gallon bottle of water before the water guy comes around again? What happens if the school floods during a partial hurricane the night before open house? Why wouldn't the students behave exactly like I asked? I remember this frustration just welling up within me. Why did everything suddenly seem so overwhelming? When I came home during Christmas break, I was so close to throwing in the towel, saying, thank you very much, I've had my taste, I failed, and now I'm out of here, back to my predictable suburban life. But thankfully, I had a mentor who sat me down and did an exercise with me. So I wanted to pause this podcast, grab a piece of paper and pen, and do this with me. He said, draw a medium-sized circle in the middle of your paper. That circle is you. Now think about all the circumstances that are frustrating you, anything that is stealing your peace, and write them on the outside of the circle. These are all the things happening around you and to you. And then he said, now think of which of the circumstances you can control. He then had me circle those circumstances and draw a line pointing from that circumstance to the middle of the circle. Then he said, now pick one of those things you circled, the thing you can control. Write on the inside circle specific ideas how you can change that circumstance. And maybe it involves changing your attitude, your habits, your priorities. So those listening, take a moment to do that now. First, I'll walk you through my examples. So at the time, this is 2010, I was my first year teaching in Honduras. This is me, all right? And these are all the things that were kind of stealing my peace. There was flooding before open house, students' behavior. Friends didn't really stay in touch long distance, so that felt kind of lonely. Lack of self-control with food. I was not dealing with stress in a healthy way. And the big fact of that, I didn't speak Spanish. I had 2 years of high school Spanish, and it was just barely, getting by and surviving. So this is me. These are all the circumstances that were really just stealing my peace. So following his exercise, I had to go through and circle what are the things that I can control. So I took a pen and I circled, okay, students' behavior. I can have some control over that, not all of it. The fact that friends don't stay in touch long distance, I could probably be more intentional with that one myself. The fact that I don't speak Spanish, what practical ways could I take? What kind of steps could I take to learn more Spanish? Could I start attending a Spanish-speaking church? Could I get a tutor? Could I stop hanging out with gringos or Americans all the time? And then my lack of self-control of food. It took a while for God to completely free me of that. He freed me right away, but I took a while to walk in that freedom, right? And so I was not dealing with stress in a healthy way, but meal plans can help, exercising can help, etc. So that was the exercise. Circle the things that you have a little bit of control of, and then right in the middle, what are practical things that you can do to take steps in the right direction toward controlling things that you can control. So then I came back to him the next day and I said, okay, I've got my plan. Remember, I'm the person that plans things to a T. I was happy with my plan, but then I said, but what about those things I can't control? And he said, this is what you're going to do. He said, there's this verse in Matthew, and it says that Jesus says, come to me, all ye who are burdened and weary, and I will give you rest. And so that is a powerful truth that you need to hold on to, that when you run into situations that you can't control, that feel out of control, that are overwhelming you, that are stealing your peace, you have to just surrender that to Jesus, because for him, that weight is really easy. So do this exercise every night before you go to bed. You're going to take your circle, which is you, write down the things, that are happening to you or stealing your peace, and then go through, write your action steps. But then there's going to be some that you can't control, like flooding before open house, right? You control how you can react to it, but you can't control that circumstance. So if that's something you can't control, or other people's behavior, for example, I want you to take a moment and recite that verse, memorize that verse, and put a check mark over that word and surrender it to Jesus. Just say, Jesus, this is your situation. I'm going to give it completely to you. Transform my attitude, transform my habits. Give me eyes to see what you want me to see through the circumstance. And once you've done that, put a check mark through it with a different color pen. And you're going to see a huge transformation in your life. You're going to sleep with way more peace. You're going to encounter situations that are unpredictable, that used to stress you out because it was just totally off your plan, and you're going to walk into them with more confidence. So I want you to pause right now. Pause this podcast. Get that piece of paper, do this exercise. If you want to rewind and replay the steps, but do this exercise because it's going to be powerful, it's going to be life-changing, and it's going to create the mindset for success as a real estate agent. And let me tell you, that process of daily surrender of those outside of my control circumstances has radically helped me break free of the fear of the unknown. So if you did that with me, just put pause on this podcast and take some time to surrender those things that are burdening your heart to Jesus. Over time and with lots of practice, I have learned to rest my certainty not on the circumstances around me, but in a good God who has proven himself faithful over and over again. This transformed my attitude because even if things were out of my control, I could trust the promises in God's word and move forward knowing the best was still to come. Now, I want to bring that same peace and certainty to the table when it comes to serving my real estate clients and finding the absolute best place for them to call home, or empowering them to take the next steps when selling their home. Because whether you're selling or buying, or you're a different important piece of the transaction, don't let fear, false expectation appearing real, hold you back. Trade your fear for faith, your worries for wisdom, your doubts for determination. As you replace fear with certainty, you will watch your life transform. I'm Laura Ortega, and you've been listening to the Novice to Expert podcast. If you're interested in partnering, want to share your own experience as a realtor, or want to sell or buy in DFW, DM me at lauraortega.realtor on Instagram and follow for content that uplifts and empowers you to become a real estate expert.